kids, welcome to Glen's Drum Emporium. Today we are fixing, trying to make something functional here with some drum lugs. We are working on a vintage Rogers tom. We're working on the actual lugs for that drum. I'll show you the drum. This is off a beautiful kit that I bought a while ago. This is a Spotlight series Rogers. If you can see that in there. It's a single lug design, rather than having a lug here and a lug here. The problem with Rogers lugs is they crack. Most of them crack. You can see the cracks right in here. This one's bad. There's another crack that's bad. Cracked on this side. Part of that issue, let me state first that these are called bread and butter lugs. It's just a nickname they came up with. But they are notorious for breaking. These are on the earlier Rogers drums. In fact, on this drum there are six lugs, and they're all cracked. They're all cracked in some area. So, even if you try and find replacements for these in good shape, they will still crack. Eventually, they will crack if you use the drums. If you're using the drums just as a showpiece, and you've got mint lugs on it, then you're fine. But I buy my vintage drums to use, and the way these lugs are, this tom is not functional. Now the bass drum has the same lugs, and they are fine. But higher tension on this tom, I guess, cracked it. I bought it like that, so I actually haven't really got to play this drum much. The problem with these lugs is they are, apparently, from what I've read, they are brass, and from what I understand, these pieces here may be soldered in. Just think of a trumpet and having the parts soldered on. Anyways, these little flanges are, I don't know if you can see here, they're just like a bent over lip that's tapped for this retaining screw to mount on the actual drum. The screw goes in behind. So anyways, when the tension rods are in, like this piece here, I'm just trying to use this as a demonstration here. This spring holds the tension rod mechanism here. So when you put the tension rod in here, and it tightens down the drum rim. But for whatever reason, these crack. If you take a modern lug, you can see how everything is reinforced. For the most part, you can see how things are reinforced, thicker steel, so you eliminate this cracking. Unfortunately, it wasn't until later that Rogers changed lugs and had a slightly better design. So here's the deal. The company Rogers went out of business years ago, and in recent years has come back to life. under new ownership and management. The good thing is they're remanufacturing these lugs, but only for the snare drum. So they are different measurement, different size, different bolt pattern. No good to us regular collectors. They're also a revamped design with support in the lug preventing this cracking issue. These lugs are highly sought after because of the issue with cracking. I know I've been looking, and the ones I see for sale are cracked. A lot of people don't understand that these things are cracked when you're buying them off eBay, but they are cracked. You basically ask the seller to show pictures really close of all of them, and you will find most of them are cracked. There is, apparently, I've checked, a person in Australia that's made their own design that is a clone of this with better support. But at $30 US a lug, that gets pretty costly, and it's not an original Rogers lug. So I personally started searching online to see what people come up with for repairing these. So there is one gentleman that uses a, what do you call it, like a paste, not a paste, but a glue paste and a hardener, and basically it's like fixes steel and stuff like that. It's a two-part thing. There's also a putty stick with the same kind of deal here. I'll show you. This is what I'm using. JB Weld steel stick. It's basically a putty with a hardener and the actual resin itself, and you mix the two together like a plasticine putty, and you shape it into the lugs. And you're asking how that works. Well, I'll show you. I'll give you a little, I don't know if I can get the light in here properly. Now, I'm just going to put the camera down. I'll show you roughly. So basically the putty right here, it's got the resin and the actual material. There's two colors. Take the plastic wrap off, you squeeze it, shape it, you keep kneading it until the two make a blend in color. And then you take it, and what you want to do is press it into, you want to press it into the corners of the lug, because that's where these things crack all the time. They crack here to here to here. So what you want to do is thicken up the wall. And this putty is steel, it's got steel enforcement in it. So you want to squeeze it all in here. You're limited for the drying time. Build up those walls. And then, before it sets, what I do is I take a tension rod, put it in. So I'm taking a tension rod and I put it into the lug, and while the putty's in there still kind of wet, I bring it through the hole and pull it, and what it does is it creates a template in the putty for the tension rod and the fastener. Then that's the start of it. Then I take one of the Rogers ones and I put a little bit of just a little bit of Vaseline on here. That's so it doesn't stick to the putty, the good one, the good tension rod retainer. because these tension rods have this weird fork on them. That fork has to be, you can see this little U here in the retainer. That's to make way for the screw that goes down that holds this. So this thing doesn't pivot. So this actually has a function of holding the lug on the shell, but also as it goes into the lug, the threads set in, or seat in this U-shaped crevice here. So what you want to do while it's wet, and then pull it tight again in the soft putty, and that way you have a template stamp in there. So when it hardens, you'll be able to get the tension rod retainer in there, no problem. I hope that makes sense. So in this lug, I've done it on both sides in here, reinforcing it. This has 2 cracks. So now what happens is, when you do tighten the tension rod, instead of it just being in this area for the pressure, or the, I guess it would be the pulling torque on it, you're now pulling a whole entire steel putty cavity that's now been added in there. Doesn't affect the outside of the look. You're still going to see the cracks. I'm doing this for the first time, so what I might do is I might put a nickel solder in here just to see if that does anything to maybe hide the cracks. I'm not sure, but I may use chrome pens, like you can see these here. I'm going to try this, see if it works. This was a liquid chrome pen, and I may just dab in the crack, just so the hardened putty, which is now hard like steel, no pun intended, it may chrome it up and hide the cracks a little bit better. Now you can buy these modelers, plastic model kits. Anyways, modelers use this on plastic model kits. I know because I build plastic models, and it works great. It looks like real chrome. So that is the scoop. Now I've done 4 of the lugs. I'm trying to give you it's a little bit of a view inside. I don't know if it's totally working, but so my hand's got the shake, so it's a little bit tricky here. Now it doesn't look pretty in there, but the whole point of this is to build up support and strength of the lug walls so they don't crack anymore. Now the guy that came up with this online, he's done it to Roger's kit that he uses. I think it's a cocktail kit. I don't know why he hasn't done a video of his procedure, but because he's got a whole printed thing on one of the drum sites. So I'm doing a video of what I interpreted from his post, and this is my first attempt at it. I've got 2 more lugs to go, and so far it seems to be working. And the pound strength of this stuff, this putty, is pretty amazing. Now unfortunately I'm almost out of this putty, and it's expensive. Up here in Canada it's like $13 a tube. So I've got 4 of the lugs done. So I'm going to use, for the last 2, which aren't as serious of cracks, I'm going to use the standard JB Weld. This is actually stronger than the putty. I mean, the putty is good enough, but like I say, I've already got this, and I don't feel like buying another $13 worth of putty. Oops, $13 worth of putty just to finish 2 lugs. I'm going to try the other stuff. Now, the other stuff is not as plasticine-like. It is thick, but the issue I have is doing getting the tension rod retainer stamped in there. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I'm going to coat this definitely with Vaseline so it doesn't stick on the original, because I don't have any spares. So so that's the scoop. That's how we do it. Now I've got a little dilemma on this one. As you can see, one of the flanges is broken. I tried to putty a small square nut in there, right here. I tried to get that in there, but it didn't work for me. So I'm trying a couple of different avenues. I will try and putty it one more time in there and hope for the best. Once it's in there, it's going to hold. But trying to get this clearance. See these 2 prongs? These 2 prongs, they got to have clearance to get in the lug. And the nut just comes down a little bit and touches that, so it makes it a little bit difficult to get that in position, or trying to push it in without it getting caught on the nut that I tried to glue in. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes. Now this stuff is tappable, this paste is tappable, so what I might do is just fill this totally in and re-tap it with the thread and try that. So I have buddies, whoops, right here, sorry, I'm trying to aim this camera up. So I'm going to fill this in with putty and then re-tap it. I've had friends use this putty for car parts and re-tap it and thread it, and they say it works great. I don't know, we'll see. Let me move this camera a bit here. Sorry for the shaky camera. I'm kind of winging this on the spot. So I just found, like I said, nobody's done a video on this, and there's so many Rogers drum collectors. I mean, the lug is shot no matter how you slice it. There's no fixing it unless you dechrome it, re-solder all the cracks, but you're still faced with the same issue that it will most likely split, but in a different spot. It needs reinforcing. That's the problem of these lugs. When you first look at it, you can tell why there's those issues. The other thing too is I found the tension rods, in some cases they were a little bit stiff going in with threads. So at some point someone might have forced it in there or whatever, and this little piece spins to the wall of the lug and puts pressure on the lug and almost wants to push out on it. So that could be another issue that causing the crack. So with having you pull this through into the, having you pull this down through the soft putty, or while it's malleable, I guess that would be the word, it makes a template or a seat, and once it hardens, that goes in the seat, and this now is kind of stuck in place and won't spin into the sides of the lug. So I'm saying that in theory. I've not tested it out, but So that's the scoop. I mean, the drum set is mint. It's absolutely mint. I bought it off an original owner. Um, and it's got a Dynasonic snare with it, and the bass drum. The floor tom was an add-on because these kits normally came just a tom and a kick and a snare, and sometimes the snare was also mounted on the kick drum with an arm. This one came with the Dynasonic chrome over brass, and you could order the holiday floor tom to go with it, which has slightly different lugs. And it was 1 year after this. Not quite the scoop on the story on this for dating it, but that's kind of the impression I got from the previous owner. The previous owner is like 85 years old, so he's had the drum set a long time. So anyways, that's the scoop. Four lugs are done. I have 2 more to go. I'll let you know how the other JB Weld works, but the problem is once you do it, once you're committed, you're committed. You can't go back, because to try and get this stuff out of here is almost impossible. So you got to make sure you do it right the first time, and any boo-boos are definitely hard to correct, because this stuff sticks like crazy. And once it's hardened, it's just like steel, like it says. Okay, just so you know, I use lacquer thinner. I put it in a tube like this just so you can squirt it into little cups like this. And the reason for this is once you are ready to put the putty in, the putty likes to stick. You don't want it on your fingers because it's very can irritate the skin. Not to mention it's just not good for you. So I use really thin vinyl like latex gloves, real thin. Put them on, dab into the lacquer thinner. Once you've got the putty kind of squished in there at the start, take your finger, put it in the lacquer thinner. Then once the putty's already in there, you want to, while it's still soft, the lacquer thinner will help you smooth it out. You want it thickest in the corners of the lug. All right? And you want to taper it down to thin, about here. I also, if you noticed, I fill in the gap next to this bent piece here, this lip, retaining lip. I fill it in. I put putty all the way up in there and make it smooth, and it helps reinforce it. But the lacquer thinner will help thin it out so you can smooth it out, get a way smoother surface. And also, once the putty's in there and it's still soft, get your retaining screw in. Trying to get this. Once the retaining screw is in and the putty's still soft, and you pull that hard in there, you want to wiggle this a bit. Just want to wiggle it around a little bit, just to have a little bit of give. So you want that retaining nut to have a little bit of play, because when you're loading in the tension rod through the rim, you want to be able to at least be able to manipulate that, a little bit of movement, in case the angle's right or wrong. If you just pull it straight and just leave it like that, you might be in for an issue. So moving it around stretches out the seat that you just made in the putty a little bit, making it a bit bigger, and that gives you a little more flexibility for later on when you're putting the rims on. Okay, just a quick reminder before you start any work on this. I suggest you clean the entire lug, wipe it down with lacquer thinner. Also clean inside with lacquer thinner. I use a Q-tip in here just to wipe all inside, get the oils off. The less issues with the putty cement sticking, the better. Then I take masking tape, or I should say not masking tape, but any kind of tape really, for painting. And then I put it on the sides of the lug, on both sides. And what I do with that is, it's a bit messy doing this putty stuff. You might get some of this stuff on the outside of the lug. If you have lacquer thinner handy, right now it's protected, but if you do get any on the lug, try and get lacquer thinner. Once you've done the putting and completed, you can take a lacquer thinner with a rag and continuously soak on this stuff, on the hardener or the cement putty, and it will come off. I don't know about letting it sit for a day or so. I'm saying as soon as you finish doing the putting, peel off, clean the lug right away. Don't wait. That's what I've done, and all of it's come off really well. And after everything's all hardened, you can buff the lug up. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching.